Imam Sahib for encouraging this. Alhamdulillah, as the nights are getting longer, we should, inshallah ta'ala, manage to at least try to understand what is being recited, what we're hearing as well, and to take the message home with us. Alhamdulillah, the Quran starts with Surah Al-Fatiha, and the Fatiha alone is, amongst its names, Kafiya, that is sufficient. The fadail or the virtues of Surah Al-Fatiha are apparent by just the fact that there are so many abundant names of this surah. It's sufficient because whatever beliefs, whatever principles of Islam there are all summarized within Al-Fatiha. We praise Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we announce His goodness, and we accept His attributes within there, and we accept that we worship Him alone, and we seek help from Him subhanahu wa ta'ala alone. Whatever help we apparently take from this creation is merely a means. The actual help is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Surah Al-Baqarah, alhamdulillah, this surah will be recited today, and it has been recited today, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept the commencement of this recitation of the surah. Inshallah, we will complete it tomorrow. We'll be moving on to Surah Al-Imran. In the very first words of Surah Al-Baqarah are known as Huruf Muqatta'at, the meaning of which only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows, or His Habib sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Nobody else is aware of the meanings of them. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. In terms of this usage of ذَلِكَ is usually used for something that is far. But in this case, it's not referring to something that's far, but to point to the greatness of the Quran. The word ذَلِكَ is used here. ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ. There's no doubt in this book. Amongst the manifestations of there being no doubt in this book is that millions of people around the world, small children onwards, and old people are memorizing the Quran, and its memorization has been made easy for the believers. هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. It is guidance, but who is it guidance for? It is guidance for those who are pious. And what are the attributes? They believe without seeing, and they establish salah. And from what we have granted them, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from what we granted them, they spend. And they believe in what is revealed to you, Ya Rasulullah, Ya Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and to what was revealed before you. And they have yaqeen in the hereafter. They are those who are upon guidance, and it is they who are successful. After this explanation and this attribute of the believers, then the disbelievers are described, and their situation of the worst type of disbelievers are described. Those whom Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has sealed their hearts, and there is a cover and a veil over their sight and their hearing, and for them it is painful punishment and a great punishment. Then the description of the hypocrites and how they apparently say they believe, but yet in their hearts they are disbelievers. In our times, it's not possible to establish such hypocrisy that a person is of this nature. And therefore, one should be very careful before attributing somebody with nifaq. Yes, the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam mentioned certain characteristics. If a person has these characteristics, then he is a complete munafiq, a hypocrite. And if somebody has one of these characteristics, then he has a characteristic of a hypocrite. إِذَا اؤْتُمِنَ خَانَ. From them is that when he is given something as a trust, he breaks and breaches that trust. وَإِذَا خَصَمَ فَاجَرَ. When he argues, he starts to swear. And when he speaks, he lies. And when he makes a promise, he breaks that promise. But in the verses, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is mentioning those hypocrites that were there at the time of our Master sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and eventually they were revealed, and their truth in relation to them was revealed. From amongst their characteristics is that when it said to them, do not spread fasad on the earth, do not spread strife on the earth, they said, we are only those who rectify. We're only peacemakers. We are not those who spread fasad. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, nay, indeed, it is they who are the mufsidun. They are the ones who cause fasad, but they do not realize. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions signs, and amongst the signs is the example of the disbelievers, and how they are in darkness, and how they see a slight light, and they are blinded by that. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the creation of mankind, and the creation of the skies and the earth amongst his signs. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the situation of the creation of Sayyidina Adam alayhi salam. And the angels saying that you are going to create them who will cause bloodshed on the earth and fasad on the earth, and we nusabbihu bihamdik wa nuqaddisu lak. We do tasbih of you, and we announce your greatness, and we are always obedient to you, and you creating them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Inni a'lamu ma la ta'lamun. Indeed, I know what you do not know. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said to them to mention the name of all things. And He said, Subhanaka la ilma lana illa ma 'allamtana. Glory be to you, we only have knowledge of what you have given us knowledge of. Innaka antal alim al-hakim. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, Ya Adam anbi'hum bi asma'ihim. And Sayyidina Adam alayhi salatu wasalam mentioned the name of everything. According to the scholars of tafsir, whatever thing is to exist till the day of judgment, be it modern devices or whatever else, and whatever language it is in, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted this knowledge to Sayyidina Adam alayhi salatu wasalam. So this raises the concept of, was there ever a need? What was the point of the arguments in relation to the knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted to the prophets alayhi salatu wasalam? When right at the beginning of your recitation of the Quran, and when you're looking back to the creation of mankind, you're seeing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is showing the greatness of mankind through the best of mankind, and that is the prophets. And which characteristics of the prophets alayhi salatu wasalam is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala showing to be the greatest of the characteristics? It is the knowledge that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted them. And then for people to talk about the Prophet not having knowledge of what is behind the wall or whatever else, what were the names that Adam alayhi salam said, whether behind the wall or whether within the wall? I will let your minds answer that. And these were baseless arguments nevertheless, but I just needed to point that out. Then carrying on, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala describes the situation of Banu Israel. And then this is a very long explanation within Surah Al-Baqarah. The situation of Banu Israel is mentioned as a reminder to us that we do not fall into those same mistakes that the Banu Israel fell into. The blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala granted them, they are reminded of those blessings. And amongst the verses within this is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commands the believers to seek help through sabr and salah, through patience and salah. And alhamdulillah, in this month of Ramadan, we learn both of these things. And as a matter of fact, in salah, especially salah al-tarawih, your sabr is tested, and our sabr is tested. And وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ وَإِنَّهَا لَكَبِيرَةٌ. But this is a very big thing. This is a very difficult thing. إِلَّا عَلَى الْخَاشِئِينَ. Except those who have khushu, who have fear. And who are those people? الَّذِينَ يَظُنُّونَ أَنَّهُمْ مُلَاقُو رَبِّهِمْ. They have certainty that they will meet their Lord and that they will return to Him. And then the situation of Banu Israel, where they disobeyed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they were punished. They worshipped a calf. They were punished for that. They were told that as part of your tawbah, it is to kill yourselves. And so many of them were killed. had to kill themselves as part of that tawbah. And then they could not bear it, and they went to Sayyidina Musa alayhi salatu wasalam, asking Sayyidina Musa alayhi salatu wasalam to beseech, to ask in the court of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for this to be removed from them. And in the same way, they were granted heavenly food, man and salwa, but yet they were not happy with that. And this is the situation of mankind, that human being is not happy with the blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted him, except for those who are fortunate. But Allah is reminding us to be grateful for His blessings. They had the blessings of Jannah, food of Jannah, but what did they ask for? And when we read this, and in terms of what did they ask for? Having heavenly food. And they said, مِن بَقْلِهَا وَقِثَّائِهَا وَفُومِهَا وَعَدَسِهَا وَبَصَلِهَا. They asked, oh Allah, give us the cucumbers, give us the vegetables, give us the onions of the ground. They had heavenly food, we get asking for this. We're laughing at their state, but our state is also the same. For we are wanting the temporary happiness of this world and forgetting the everlasting happiness of the hereafter. So this message is for us as well, that if you want to achieve the success in life actually, then thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for His blessings and appreciate the blessings that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has granted you. And then there's so much more to discuss, including the very reason why Surah Al-Baqarah is called Baqarah, based upon the cow. They were commanded to sacrifice a cow to establish who killed a certain person, but instead of just accepting. And this is one of the big lessons that our Master sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, and alhamdulillah, in one of the hadith sessions that a number of the brothers were present the other day, this was mentioned as well, that do not be like the Banu Israel, the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam told us. Do not ask too many questions. One of the biggest issues of our time today, especially with our young people growing up and their minds being distorted, is that they are taught to question too much. And there's certain questions that cannot be answered on this earth. And the more their minds are open to ask beyond the limit, the more they are falling into confusion and misguidance. So the Banu Israel, amongst the things that they asked, was this that you won't believe? لَن نُؤْمِنَ لَكَ حَتَّى نَرَى اللَّهَ جَهْرَةً. Until we see Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala openly, we will not believe. And they were grasped by thunder and destroyed, by lightning and destroyed. And in the same way, we have that the Banu Israel did not just, they were told to sacrifice a cow, and instead of just sticking to that, the command is to sacrifice a cow, not sacrifice a cow, they now had to ask, what is the cow? Then they give a description of the cow, then they say, what color is the cow? And the cow that they had to sacrifice was Baqaratun Safra. It was a yellow cow. And so, how many yellow cows have you seen in your life, or will come across? So this was a unique cow that they had to end up sacrificing. And they eventually found it and had to pay so much. And the scholars of Tafsir go into detail in relation to this. This is just half the juz of what we recited today. We're continuing on into, for example, the last part of what was recited today, at the beginning of the second juz. And alhamdulillah, we did a quarter of the second juz. Is that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala changed the Qibla. The first Qibla of the Muslims in Medina Tayyibah, when our Master sallallahu alayhi wa sallam died in Medina Tayyibah, according to many narrations, this was for the period of 16 months. Our Master sallallahu alayhi wa sallam prayed toward Baytul Maqdis, prayed toward Masjid al-Aqsa. That is our first Qibla. But the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, his love for the Kaaba was that it should be the Qibla. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, قَدْ نَرَى تَقَلُّبَ وَجْهِكَ فِي السَّمَاءِ. Indeed, we see your turning your face towards the sky. فَلَنُوَلِّيَنَّكَ قِبْلَةً تَرْضَاهَا. So we will certainly turn you towards a Qibla which you are pleased with. So if the Kaaba is the Qibla today, it is because of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So let's ask those people who scream Qibla in front of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that if you're screaming to face the Qibla for dua, who made that Qibla the Qibla? And in Al-Shifa bi-Ta'rif al-Huquq al-Mustafa, Imam Qari rahimahullah ta'ala mentions that the king of the time asked Sayyidina Imam Malik rahimahullah that when I'm doing dua, should I face the Qibla or should I face Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? And Imam Malik rahimahullah said, rather you should face towards Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, for he is your wasila and the wasila of your father Adam alayhi salatu wasalam. In terms of this concept of if we're facing towards Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam and doing dua, is this dua not to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala when we are facing Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam? And the second thing is that where in the Quran and Sunnah is the Kaaba established to be the Qibla for dua? It is established as the Qibla for Salah, but it is not the Qibla for dua. The Qibla for the dua in essence is the skies, but that's how you have your hands raised toward the skies. Otherwise, when a Khatib of Jumu'ah stands on the minbar and has his back towards the Qibla at that time, you tell him to face the Qibla at that time. You would be going against the Sunnah for doing so. So, in terms of this matter, the Qibla became the Qibla due to our Master. And what does the Quran say? Qiblatan tardaha. We will turn you towards that Qibla with which you are pleased, which pleases you. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions to hold on to sabr and salah again, and then that you will be tested with hunger and fear and loss of life and wealth and loss of fruits. But glad tidings to those who are patient, who when a musibah afflicts them, they say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. So Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un is not just for when somebody passes away. It's any calamity that befalls. And that's why when a candle, even the light of a candle came out, our Master sallallahu alayhi wa sallam decided Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un, and mentioned that even a thorn that touches a believer is a kafara for him. And in the last ayahs, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described those who hid the verses of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even in the distorted version of the Old Testament today, there are still many examples of verses which are pointing to the final messenger of Allah, Sayyidina Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, in spite of all the distortion. وَإِنَّ الَّذِينَ يَكْتُمُونَ مَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ مِنَ الْكِتَابِ. And what was the reason? وَيَشْتَرُونَ بِهِ ثَمَنًا قَلِيلًا. They sold it for a small price. What are they filling their stomachs with? أُولَٰئِكَ مَا يَأْكُلُونَ فِي بُطُونِهِمْ إِلَّا النَّارِ. They are only filling their stomachs with the fire. وَلَا يُكَلِّمُهُمُ اللَّهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ. Allah will not speak to them on the day of judgment. وَلَا يَنْظُرُ إِلَيْهِمْ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ وَلَا يُكَلِّمُهُ اللَّهُ يَوْمَ الْقِيَامَةِ وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ أَلِيمٌ. And for them is a painful punishment. What have they done? أُولَٰئِكَ الَّذِينَ اشْتَرَوُا الضَّلَالَةَ بِالْهُدَىٰ. They have purchased misguidance in exchange for guidance. They purchased punishment in exchange for forgiveness. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from misguidance, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala protect us from calamities, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant us the nur of the Quran and the understanding of the Quran. Ameen. Allahumma salli ala sayyidina wa ala Muhammad.